Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with the ACF Ultimate Series. Specifically, we're still technically in the combat. We're going to start by creating our own action, custom action, but it's not a combat-specific action. It is going to be something that's generally used outside of combat, but could be used in combat if you were, say, trying to pick up your souls after you died from your boss from the boss the 100th time. So we are going to go over said interaction action. So by the end of this, because I wanted to make sure I could make it work before I did it, you're going to be able to come up to an item to pick it up, and then it disappears. And come to the door, touch it, and then the door disappears. So let's go ahead and get started with creating our own action. So the first thing we want to do is, as you can see here in the 2 to ACF player action set, which is this action set right here. When we did crouch and uncrouch, we created this for those who skipped that episode. You do not want to use what is already provided by the full sample or the integration samples. You want to create your own action set. So you can either right-click, go to Blueprint class to find them, or if you have this, the Editor UI plugin that Pask has provided for purchase, you can come here to Combat, Actions, Action Set, ACF Base Action Set, and hit OK, name it, whatever you want to name it, and open it up to have this one. Now I already have the interact, obviously, because I just showed it off. But now we also are going to show how to get everything else going. So I deleted everything that was duplicated from here because I'm going to teach all of the most of this. Some of it's repeats, so there's no reason to redo it, and place it in our own to help better understand where everything's connected. So let's go ahead and create our interact action. As you can see, ACF interact action BP, not, where was I going with this? Yes, this is what we're making. I'm not going to recreate it, but I am going to go through the process for you. Now, as I've stated before, right-click, combat, actions, and action. Now, this is how we're doing it from here on out. But for those that chose not to make the purchase, I don't want to make you feel left out. Right-click, Blueprint class, and just here in all classes, type in action. Probably called ACF action. Let me find it. 1 second. All right. So I was forgetting a word. Blueprint class, ACF base action. There it is. ACF base action. Then you can create the action. Name it whatever you want. Mine's ACF interact action BP. We're going to open this up. Sorry, I want to make sure this is private. That's not being used, so this can be deleted. There we go. So here we are in our new action. It's technically like this. There's nothing there. Nothing whatsoever. So the first thing you need to understand, when you right-click, you can type event and scroll down until you find so you're just not going to show for me for some reason. Oh, because I'm in the function. Right-click, type event. There we go. And you have these ACF events, clients for those that are doing multiplayer, and then when you're not in multiplayer. So action ends. So when the action ends, so the ACF action end notify action started. So if you do an action notify instead of the end notify. On action transition, haven't messed with this one yet, so can't really talk much on it. On notable point reached, this is also where you can have the on action notify. On sub action state entered, and on exited, event on tick, and the event play effects. So then if we also come over here to override, can execute action, client on action ended. So you have a bunch of functions here, get play rate, get warp info, get warp target component, get warp transform, on action end, on action transition, state started and exited, so that you can mess with all of these how you want and need for your action. So the first thing you're going to want to get is the event on action started and the event on notable point reached. Let's go ahead and get started here with on the action started. You want to, you need to, you really should have to make sure you have the parent there. You right click, add call to parent function, connect them if it's not already there. Next thing you want to do is get the character owner. So you just type character owner. There it is. And from there, you can get the component you need. We're going to be using the interaction component. So that's what we have right here. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And the biggest reason we want to get the interaction component is to do get current best interactable actor. So it's going to get the actor that you are going to be interacting with according to your UI. So you know it's always going to work. Obviously, make sure you have an is valid. That way, if it isn't valid, you don't get a whole bunch of errors, because you may be using something that doesn't have the interact component, and you want to make sure that that goes away. If you want to you do this print string no interaction component. Now, when you don't have one, you'll know why it's not working. And we can even put it at 5 seconds. Okay, once that's done, we have the interacted actor, we have the interaction component. We now need to decide what we're going to do in the montage. Because, like I said, we have multiple sections in our montage. So if we come up here to the functions, ACF, I've already overwritten it, so you want to go to override and get the get montage section action, section name rather. And the first thing we're going to want is to get this enumeration, but we need to make it. So let's go ahead and make that real quick. I've already gone ahead and in my data under enumerations, I have this ACF underscore interact categories underscore E for enumeration. So you just right click, type, of course, because that got in the way. I don't want you doing that. Come on. There we go. Type in enumeration. There it is. Create the enumeration, open it up. Display name, have as many of these as you want. For this, obviously, I just have pickup and door. Now that that's been created, we're going to come over here back into the action, and we need to create a variable. Call it whatever you want, but it's going to be of type this enumeration. After you've done that, hit compile, come over here, and make it a map. So in the variable type, change it from single to map, and it's going to pop up with integer. Come right here, change it to name. After you hit that down arrow, hit compile and save. Now when you hit the plus, pickup is going to show up. And I've named it pickup for what the montage section is. You're going to go and hit plus again, but it won't work. The very first option, which is pickup in this, needs to be last. So what that means is it doesn't need to be last, but it can't be first. It can't be next on the list. So if I hit plus sign, I can't because we only have 2. So let me just go ahead and going to copy this. I'm going to go ahead and just show you. Hit plus sign, pick up. If I were to name this, just to name it, hit plus, it's not going to work. It's going to say it's not going to work. That's because you need to change this to door. Now we hit plus, we get pickup, and I think I have it named pickup. 1 second. Yes, I do. Pickup. That's how keys work, or how maps work. Now you're going to want to pull out and type keys so that we can get a for each loop with break. The reason we want to break is when we find it, we don't want to keep doing it because that's unnecessary work. So we want to make sure we break it. Once that break is done, we need to create something else for the interacted item, for the interacted actor, which if you remember in the event graph, which we got right here when we did get current best interactable actor and created interacted actor. Let's come back in here because we're going to get a component by class. Now, this component hasn't been made yet. I'm doing this to get around having to cast. If you want to cast, you can. If you want to figure out how to utilize an interface, you can, because interfaces can be here. There's an interface right there. But I didn't want to deal with either of those for this instance because the interactable component is fairly high, close to the top, so it's going to find it quickly. So that's usually what I do. And for this component by class, we're going to create the component as I said. So here in Blueprints, I've created, right-click, Blueprint class, and actor component. Name it whatever you want. And in here, I have placed that same enumeration that I just made. That's all that's in here. So if you want to make it to where you have general variables that can be found throughout your game, so that multiple characters can or items can easily use your actions, and you don't have to worry about, and you don't want to have to worry about casting or anything, then you could name it ACF or whatever you want _ general variables, so that you can then keep all of your stored variables here. Once it's created, come in here to the gate, my great gate. I added the components, interactable categories, right here. And then I changed the category name to door. Then for this item, I'm not going to be saving it and pushing it. I did it for the sake of the video. If we open up the full, I also added that here. And I made sure that it said pickup. So now that we know what each of these are supposed to say, and we have that component made, we can come back to this function, get montage section name. We get the interacted actor, get component by class, and we get the component that we made and named so that we have it. Get categories, and I'm checking to see if this category that's in this key matches this category. If it doesn't, it doesn't do anything. I mean, if it isn't, it doesn't do anything. Nothing happens. If it's true, then first it's going to return what the name is from here, which if it's the wall, the gates, it's going to return the name push button, because that's what I chose to name it for the door. If it's for picking up an item, it's going to choose pick up. So make sure that your code looks identical to this. The reason I have this sequence here, as I've already stated, is if it's true, first I want to return. And I also want to make sure that it does not continue going through the loop, because you could have 50 things here. So you want it to stop. So break, it stops. Perfect. The final thing we need to do is back in the event graph. Event on notable point reached. You're going to get your interaction component and do interact. Fantastic. Now that we have this set up, we can go on to the next step, which is making sure here I've gone ahead and added this into the player. So you're going to be able to do this regardless. We come down here. We're in the player here. I'm going to, let me change where it's at real quick to make it easier. Looks like I did already change its category, which is good. Under ACF, have interaction action. So if you don't, then it's going to keep interacting as it should. As you can see, by default, it's false. So it doesn't mess with anyone else's work. So have interact action, check it. So now it's going to use that action first, which we are about to now create in our action set. Here we go. So obviously you want to hit the plus icon so that you can make another action, and you will find ACF interact action BP, or whatever you chose to name it. Now here under default, I need to, here, those should actually be gone now. They should be gone at this point. We should only be able to see this stuff right here, because I deleted that and that is gone. I didn't compile. Save. There we go. Yeah, the interaction component shouldn't be showing, but it is. It's fine. Deal with it later. So, as you can see here, we now have where we can change and add how we want. So we can add more, delete them if we only need a couple, and we can name them how we want. We also need to make sure we use the actions interact, which there's already one, so you don't have to worry about creating it. Just go and find it. The next thing we're going to do, because nothing else needs to be done, because we're just interacting. If you want to make it to where it warps to a certain position, you actually could. That's really up to you if you choose to do that. It's just additional work that you would need to set up to make it to where it warps to the right location. Now we need to create the montage. For me, I can't remember where I got these animations from. It looks like Movement Anim Set Pro is what it's called. I have the button push and the pickup. You've seen creating montages already and adding multiple to it. The only thing that's different here is I have an ACF notify action in each of them. Because, pause here. Now it right here, it touched it. Granted, it touches actually about right there. So I'll go ahead and move that while I'm here. Doesn't really matter. It's hard to see. And then in this one, at that point, that's when when the item disappears. These work because of this right here. And now it calls this instead of calling it within the character blueprint. So we went over a whole bunch. I'm going to quickly go over that stuff again, but in a more logical order to help you understand for those that were having a hard time following along to make the connection. So because we were making an interaction component, we came over here before we make the interaction. to make this easier for you guys to understand, the first thing you want to do is to create this enumeration. Create the enumeration. Once you've created it, you're going to want to create your actor component and place that enumeration within the actor component. Okay. Once that's done, you're going to want to create your action, which is a child of ACF base action. Whether you use these new UI tools that you can purchase, or you do it the old-fashioned way of a blueprint class, is irrelevant. Make it how you choose. Once you're in your action, you want to find the event on action started and the event on notable point reached. Once you've done that, you're going to want to get the character owner to find the ACF interaction component, make sure it's valid, and make it an interaction component variable. Yeah. So then you're going to want to get current best action actor to get the interacted actor. Oh. Let's see here. Right here. Let's make this one private. Shouldn't show it now. So now that we have both of these, we can now, because we're here, we already created the interaction component variable, drag the interaction component, and get the interact. We now have this all set up. But in order to select which montage section to use, you need to make sure you get make a variable of interaction category and name it however you want. I named it to montage. Turn it into a map, and for the key, I think it's a key, or that's the key, and I don't know the differences. I just know it works. You're going to change this second one to a name. Then make get keys. So the first one's the keys. Gotcha. And drag it into the and make an for each loop or for each loop with break. You're going to want to get the interacted actor to make sure you get that new component, actor component you made, so that you can have the category to compare between the keys to make sure that you get the correct name so that you can use the correct animation. If you've done all of that, then you come in here, make sure that these are set up how you want, make sure you have this ACF interact action BP set up, and you make sure that you have the animation montage set up how you want and have the notifies where they should be, then you are going to end up picking up items when you should and touching doors to open when you should. For this example, obviously. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope this helped you better understand the power of actions and helped demystify it a bit so that you can extend your code to fit each type of action so that you are able to utilize these actions in multiple scenarios and situations and multiple characters for those who, need different interactions in this instance, so that you are able to create your world and your game exactly how you want. I appreciate you watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe. And if you would like to, please support me by buying me a coffee or joining my Patreon. Have a fantastic day. Bye.